Good morning, everyone, and welcome to HLB's Coffee and Chat webinar series. A slightly different style webinar for us today. As you can see, we're away from our desks and in a more relaxed setting in the corner of the HLB Mann Judd kitchen. Thank you for joining us. It's certainly been nice to be back in the office this week. And this morning I'm here to chat with our newest partner, Rowan Tracey. And as many of you know, Rowan has been part of the HLB Mann Judd team since he joined the firm straight out of university in 2005. And over the past 15 years, Rowan has proved himself to be a hard-working and essential member of the firm. And after working his way through the ranks, was this week promoted to partner within the business advisory division. So this webinar is really a get to know you with Rowan. Probably be a little bit more Graham Norton than 60 minutes or something like that, Rowan. So
that's good.
But first, I just want to say welcome to the firm's partnership. And although we work in different areas, we've worked together for some time, and it's certainly been great to see you grow and develop through the years. And I just wanted to start by asking you, did you always dream of being an accountant, surrounding yourself with spreadsheets and calculators in the playground?
Well, I'd be lying if I said yes, Norm. Probably like most kids, I was wanting to be a policeman, a sports star, maybe an astronaut, something along those lines. But from my university career, when I started my commerce degree, I sort of knew I had a bit of a propensity to it, and I sort of shone to it. And moving into the profession, seemed to work for me, and I adapted my skill set accordingly, I think.
Yeah. I don't think anybody answers that question with yes, but it's I don't think it's anybody's first career, but it's certainly something that you can build on.
Definitely.
And I guess talking about building on a career, I mean, nobody gets through to any sort of senior position without a fair bit of support and those things, maybe even on the home front. So who's the support team behind you?
Yeah, so I've got my wife Kim and my two kids. Also, my parents have been very supportive to me. I think I was quite fortunate that I grew up in a fairly stable family. I had the opportunity to be sort of well educated and given plenty of opportunities. But yeah, my core support network at the moment is my wife Kim and obviously my two kids. They sort of mean everything to me, and they've been fantastic throughout the journey.
And I know they're relatively young, so no doubt working from home during COVID probably caused a few moments of madness.
Yeah, well, more so probably from my dog. My kids were okay. They knew that when Dad was working to sort of leave me alone. And fortunately, my daughter does go to school. My son goes to daycare a little bit as well. But it was a little bit embarrassing, I think, when I was having some fairly important discussions that my dog would just start barking. But I think people were pretty understanding of the circumstance. So
I certainly don't think anyone that's been on a video call from home over the last 3 months perhaps would have noticed anything different.
Yeah, that's right.
So did your career, I guess, progress the way you thought it would from when you started, or did you think you'd be here talking to me 15 years ago?
Probably not, to be honest, Norm. I'm quite hard on myself. Have high expectations, and I think I tend to think about the way I'm perceived, etc. Early on, I might have struggled a little bit to know the ropes, etc. But then I sort of feel like I went from strength to strength. And fortunately, I had some really good mentors. I can think back at some managers and obviously partners, even current and former, of the firm that have really sort of helped me and guided me through the journey, I suppose.
And I guess most people would be aware that Terry Blankensop retired during the week, and a few years ago, Colin Emmett, one of the other business services partners, retired. And I guess looking from the audit division perspective, you probably worked with Terry and Colin relatively closely.
Yeah, definitely.
No doubt they were both sort of mentors to you. What did you learn from those two guys?
Yeah, so I remember when I first came into the firm, there was sort of two discrete divisions within, obviously, the business services division. I was in the green team, and the partners in there were the likes of Peter Speechley, Terry Blankensop, Trevor Hoddy at the time. Colin was in the gold team, so I didn't work with him a lot early on. But when we sort of merged teams, I had an opportunity to work with both of them. And look, I think they were both great leaders, and they had skill sets in their own right. So I just learned the ropes from them, I suppose, particularly from a client focus perspective. and technical and looking at various different industries and disciplines within the profession. So that's what I learned from those guys.
You mentioned client service there, and
Yep.
obviously client service is a big part of what we do here, and a major reason why we exist.
Yeah.
Was that the biggest thing you took from those two guys, the client aspect servicing, or was it more leadership skills and those things?
Yeah, I'd say yes, because obviously what you touched on, client service is critical for our business, the relationships and the client service. And it always, not just with those guys, but across the firm, really struck me and resonated with me, the loyalty, respect and service that we have for our clients. And that sort of really closely aligns to my own values. So from that perspective, whilst I did learn and grow from them, it was always part of my core belief system as well, which really struck a chord with me. So I did learn a lot from those guys to refine those skills, but I sort of try to mirror them, I suppose, a little bit as well.
Just sort of thinking back through the accounting profession, and I guess the role of an accountant has probably changed even in the time since you joined.
Yeah, definitely.
As a graduate. So probably a bit of a two-part question. What have you noticed has changed the most, and what do you think will change in the future?
Yeah, well, I remember when I first started at the firm back in 2005, we still had a lot of paper files. I remember our working papers were all in hard copy. Cross-referencing trial balances was a time-consuming and I guess at times frustrating part of it. But the way that we've moved to really embrace technology, which a lot of businesses have, we're essentially paperless in the office. We've got permanent files, etc., which has got sort of some documents that we need, but that's been the biggest shift that I've noticed in our practice. Just the advancement in technology and the ease and efficiencies as well that we've worked on. Yeah, that's probably the biggest change.
And how do you sort of see that impacting on, I guess, the client experience? I know probably over the past 3 months, the client experience has been really different. Do you see any of that sort of flowing on, or things returning to the way they were? Where do you sort of sit with that?
Yeah, look, I mean, I think with the technology, it allows us more time, I suppose, to reflect and maybe get more of an understanding about the client's circumstance, because we're not sort of as focused on the regulatory side of things. But look, I like to hope that we've evolved as a firm, but also that the clients that have been clients of our firm throughout our growth still receiving the same level of service and love and care that they supported then. So I hope the client experience has only got better, but it was never too bad in my opinion either.
Yeah,
so.
And look, I think that's certainly been one of the challenges we've had over this period of time, is how do we make sure that we do things to the same level, but adapt at the same time. I mean, I think this is a prime example of something that we weren't even thinking about doing 3 months ago.
No.
Just in terms of the way that the current circumstances have changed the way we operate, and I guess how we get our messages out to clients.
Yeah, that's right.
So I'm going to take you back now, right back to the start of your career, and we were just chatting before we started that you probably came through the graduate intake in 2004, I think. And
yep.
Sort of thinking back to 2004, that was probably the start of some pretty boom times, and I think you probably started with 5 or 6 other graduates at the time now, I think, as well.
Yeah, I don't think there's been as much of an intake. From memory, it could have been about 8, in myself included, but someone obviously...
Like a super draft.
Yeah, it was, yeah. But I think I'm the only one left, so I'm not sure what that says about the draft. But yeah, there was a lot of people that I started with, and I can sort of vividly remember my interviews and whatnot as well. So
what's the thing you remember from that first graduate interview?
Well, apart from being extremely nervous, I remember walking into... I had worked at McDonald's previously, so I had some experience in working in teams and things like that. But I guess everyone was really welcoming, friendly from the reception level. I felt like I was at ease straight away. And I guess that really helped me because I was quite nervous and it was my first sort of professional interview. So that sort of really helped me relax and maybe be a bit more of my true self.
And do you remember who you spoke to in that first interview?
I do, Norm. I think it was you. And I think it was our HR manager, Ellen, at the time, I think Ellen had a couple of stints in different roles in the practice. So, yeah, I clearly remember that. Don't ask me the specifics about the questions. that I got asked, because I can't entirely remember. But
the good news is, Rowan, a lot of people tell me that I interviewed them throughout the process.
Yeah.
I guess that's what happens after,
yeah.
Working here for a long period of time. But it's not too many I remember as well.
Well, they're probably not too dissimilar to the questions we're asking our current graduates, so maybe I can sort of recall what we asked people. So.
And look, I'm going to let you on a little secret, and I'm sure you've heard this story before. But
Right.
Following your first interview, there was so the process. We'll go back a step. The process is that we first interview, you get through that, get asked back for a second round interview and things like that. But we normally in the day sat down, went through the resumes, went through the first round of interviews, and then have a big discussion about who we're going to ask back.
Right.
Now a lot of people liked you. Obviously because you're here. But there was one thing that in those days that people had a little bit of a question mark about you.
Right.
It wasn't your sort of typical accountant look that you had. Got any idea?
Yeah, I think I know what you're talking about here, and some of our fellow partners are all too keen to remind me of these sorts of things. But I think I accidentally left my earring in an earring that I had once for my first interview. So, and
I think at that stage having an earring was probably not a
taboo, maybe.
Yeah, maybe even taboo. Not really probably what the look from an accountant was about. And I think one of our fellow partners now sort of suggested that we'd give you one more chance. And you turned up without it on the second interview, so you got through it. That's
right. I think it was a genuine accident, and in all honesty, I haven't worn one since. I used to have one when I was a young guy, but yeah, not anymore. So I'm sort of glad that I suppose I owe a little bit of debt of gratitude to one of the partners, but I don't let him know about that too often. But yeah, at least I got given a go, I suppose, and a second chance. But I didn't make the same mistake twice. So.
And that's right. Yep. The only mistake is one you make twice.
That's right.
But look, it just goes to show that things happen during people's careers, and sometimes there's little moments in life that lead you down a path. So you're here.
Yeah.
So as part of that discussion process, we would have probably asked you where you thought you wanted to head and what sort of role you wanted to play, what division, audit, business services, and obviously you decided business services was where you were going, or maybe we decided that for you. I can't quite remember,
but yeah, I was probably pretty open to go in any direction in the profession, but I think circumstance led me to business services. And look, I know how you guys operate and work quite close with you. I think I'm really suited to that area of the profession. So by either luck, fate, whatever you want to call it, I ended up sort of where I should have been. So that's good. So
never a thought process that you were, might like to join the audit side of things?
Well,
see how the other half live?
I have had that thought process before until I walk out of here at about 6, 7. You guys are bunkering down in a busy time for a midnight session. I'm not really that keen on that, but look, I think I'm suited, as I said before, to the area or the discipline I work in, and I've really enjoyed it. So
I guess sort of touching on that then, Rowan, you mentioned you're really suited to that. Where do you see your strengths, and what can you bring to a client's business? Yeah,
look, I really feel like I do care about the clients. I'm genuine. I do want to work with them. I'm really, my interpersonal skills, I like to think, are pretty good. I can usually establish rapport with people quite easily, and I think that just stems from I like to think I'm a fairly sort of genuine guy, and maybe a bit hard on the sleeve at times, but at least you sort of know where you stand with me. And I think that's held me in pretty good stead throughout not only my professional career, but my social life as well. So I'm a pretty honest sort of guy, I think, yeah.
So the COVID impact over the past few months, obviously different type of questions from clients and probably more interaction at times.
Yeah, certainly.
Really trying to deal with some business crises, I guess. What have you sort of learnt over the last few months that you think will sort of take you forward from this part of your career, or certainly as you sort of work your way into a partnership role? How do you see that impacting that? Yeah,
look, I mean, very early on, and fortunately, we haven't had a lot of clients that have been massively impacted. Obviously, there was the JobKeepers and the stimulus. That was quite heavily, the topic of conversation with a lot of clients throughout. But I think what it really sort of showed me as well is that clients really appreciate, which is completely understandable, being a bit more proactive, taking an interest in their circumstances, providing useful information to them in an understandable manner. I think that's what I've sort of learned over a long time, that at the end of the day, clients are people just like us, and they're running their own businesses or whatever it might be. They just want to work collaboratively with us, and for us to think a bit beyond just the compliance piece and really provide them some valuable advice to them, I suppose.
Yeah, I mean, I think there was that whole needing to, pretty well everyone was learning, right? I actually sort of said to someone the other day, even from our own firm perspective, you couldn't go to the shelf and pull off the crisis handbook and say, right, this is how we play. You were really dealing with things daily, weekly, being a very changing environment, and I think that sort of allowed people to be a little bit more collaborative with the service. So again, listen to advisors, listen to all the advice, and then hopefully make the right decision for your own business.
Oh, look, definitely. I think that sort of the empathy. I think we're all we're all in it together. Was used a fair bit, but I guess our business was suffering, everyone else, etc. So I think that really gave people an opportunity to work together and understand each other's circumstances. So that was of some benefit, I suppose, throughout that crisis time, or the height of it anyway.
Yeah,
so
sure. All right. Well, sort of, you've taken perhaps the traditional role, or what sometimes people see as traditional role, similar to my own path, straight out of university into working life, and then same firm for all those period of times.
Yeah.
What would you give to the accounting? What advice would you give to the accounting grads that are starting now in their careers?
I guess really sort of have an open mind to the profession, and look, at the end of the day, what I've learned in hindsight, I enjoy my job, but at the end of the day, it is a job, and there's not always fun. There's a certain degree of repetition to it, but you've just got to look for the opportunities to grow as a person, and take some enjoyment out of what you do. That's probably what the advice that I would give. Look, we get some graduates that are quite keen on progression, and they're sort of touching with us to maybe move on to bigger and better things in their own mind. I happened to suit the firm and became part of the culture, I suppose, and that worked me. But communication's key as well. I think that's what I sort of try and convey to our graduates, that it's being able to talk to people, because clients are people. Yep. That's probably I guess some of the advice that I'd give to some graduates. Yeah.
Yeah. Look, and I certainly think that the work that you do first 2 years, 3 years of your accounting career versus the next 20 is very different, and there's a whole range of skills, not just accounting skills, that you do need to learn, but the ability to talk to people and interact with people. Yeah. I think you're right, is really key to what you do. I think a lot of people think that accounting is a numbers game. Yeah. And we made a little joke about spreadsheets and calculators at the start. Yeah. But at the end of the day, they're just the tools that we use. Oh, look,
I couldn't agree with you more. I mean, I feel like I'm more of a sort of consultant or almost a lawyer. I'm not a tax lawyer, but it's really sort of working collaboratively and advising people. Yes, I've got the tools, and there's a lot of number crunching, and that's at the detail level, but it's really just being able to understand people's businesses and help them grow together. And that's what it's sort of all about. That's what I get enjoyment from. So.
Yeah, and I often think it's really around our ability to interpret data and trends and those sort of things that actually lead to those.
Correct.
Those great strong conversations about how to improve people's businesses.
Yeah, for sure. Absolutely. Yeah.
I guess in on that sort of vein, there's been some massive sort of technological changes that have occurred as we go along. I mean, you mentioned the moving more digital and less away from paper and those sorts of things. Yeah. I guess just as perhaps I went through the GST era, where all of a sudden people went away from shoeboxes and manual accounting records to the MyObs of the world.
There's still some of those floating around.
But I guess now we're now looking at things like direct data feeds and programs like Xero that are really perhaps potentially taking some of the things that we used to do. I certainly know my experience coding bank statements and checking check butts and all those sort of things, which some people have got no idea what a check butt is.
No.
Do you think these sorts of things have made it harder for us, or is it?
Oh, yeah, look, it sort of has, but it's also created some opportunity as well. And look, I couldn't agree with you more that there's been, the average client is a little bit more sophisticated than perhaps they were when I first started the profession. And everyone's familiar with how to Google and search around and be able to navigate even some technical content on the ATO website, etc. So I think we've tried to harness technology, and as you know, we've looked at our internal processes and things like that and ways to improve our efficiencies. So I think there's going to be an expectation that those tools are now standard, and then it's going to be what value can we add to businesses from using our experience and sort of, I guess, business acumen, but whilst at the same time understanding that I don't know more than a client does about their business, but perhaps I can share some of my experiences with other clients or similar industries and maybe give them a few pointers or work with them to perhaps improve.
So almost seeing that as a facilitative type role, and rather than that I'm necessarily the expert on everything.
Correct.
We're going back to that collaboration that we were talking about before.
Absolutely. Yep.
Technology's worked reasonably well, I think, for us over the last 3 months, and certainly probably accelerated our use with some things.
Oh, look, yeah, absolutely.
I've certainly used a lot less paper by working remotely and things like that. One of the challenges I think I find with email, phones, all that sort of stuff is that there does tend to be that ability that you're kind of always on.
Yeah.
And so that's certainly one thing I think is that technology has probably encroached a little bit on people's time, that there is a sort of almost a thought process that everybody's available all the time. Yeah,
look, I agree, but I think everyone's in the same boat as well. So that, you know, the clients have got constant pressures and emails and phone calls. You've just got to sort of, time management hasn't sort of gone away, the concept of it. You've just got to adapt a little bit more. And look, I honestly don't mind dealing with a couple of emails at night time and whatnot as well. But you've got to allow yourself an opportunity to have that little bit of downtime. Otherwise, you're going to burn out. And you're not going to be useful to anyone, and you're not doing yourself any favors either. So, like yourself, I hadn't touched Microsoft Teams really. We'd had it for a little while, but you know, great program. And you know, I think what we've all seen is that, despite a reluctance of which I probably was to work from home, it can be done, and we can still function as a business unit that way. So I think in future there's going to be more working from home requests, and I think our clients will be in the same position as well, I would have thought. Yeah,
look, and I think the ability to adapt and the way that we've adapted, you know, most people that work here would have known me sort of pumping that mantra down their throats for the last 3 months about adapting, not enduring. But I really think that's the key. I think areas where things have thrived is that because we've been able to adapt to the challenge.
Yeah, definitely.
Change the way we do things and move it through, rather than just sort of cross our fingers and wait till it all be over. I think we've had to adapt.
Yeah, absolutely. And we've adapted, but what we've realised is the adaptation hasn't been that cumbersome either. It's been tweaking, I suppose, and just utilising the technology and the tools. And, you know, whilst I might have spent a little bit more time on the phone and using Microsoft Teams, etc., rather than the face-to-face, which I don't think you can substitute the face-to-face interaction, that's still a tool. You know, they're easy to use, and business can go on, I suppose.
No, I totally agree. Face-to-face is always preferable.
Yeah.
Screen-to-screen is a decent alternative to face-to-face. But yeah, look, there's going to be always times, I think, where people need to sit down and have a chat.
Yeah, definitely.
So working your way through that, and when we sort of talked about that need to shut off and those sort of things. So away from the office, how do you relax?
I would say my kids, but whilst I love spending time with my kids, they're not overly relaxing. But I'm into footy. I play football, Australian rules football. I used to play a lot of music, but that's sort of dropped off a little bit. But it's something that I'd perhaps like to pursue again in the future. I play a bit of guitar.
Now, from memory, perhaps your choice of music is not necessarily sort of soothing lullabies for your children.
No, it's not. I do like sort of pretty heavy, sort of rock and rolly. That's probably not justifying enough, but it's probably not mainstream. Let's just put it that way. But you know, believe it or not, I actually, that relaxes me, and I've always enjoyed that type of music for whatever reason. You would have probably seen me as a 15-year-old just walking around in a Metallica shirt the whole time, to be honest, and maybe some black shorts. But yeah, I do. I still really enjoy that. So I'm an accountant. Let's face it. I'm a left brain sort of logic guy. That's my only creative outlet, I suppose, beyond the accounting profession. So, and I enjoy writing my own music and things like that. So, bit of sport, bit of family, a little bit of music, not so much. But that's really how I sort of unwind, I suppose.
And I think, you know, that stereotype of the accountant being quite boring is really, I think, invalid.
Yeah.
Not really earned. There's actually not too many staid, boring people that work in this office.
No, definitely not. I mean, the bean counter and the real conservatives, not who I know around this particular practice. And I think that's good. There's all sorts of different personalities, and we all sort of work together pretty well as a team. And it's certainly not the stereotypical sort of accounting practice, I suppose.
So more of a job interview type question now. How do you think your staff or people that work with you would describe Rowan?
How I'd like them to describe me.
Not how you'd like them to describe, how they would describe you.
Yeah, I'd like to think that they would describe me as sort of really hardworking, dedicated, loyal, a leader as well. I'm prepared to get myself, I suppose, in the trenches and get involved in some of the. I don't feel above certain work, even though I'm probably going to have to get rid of a little bit more of the processing side as I move on. But just as I said in the opening comments, just pretty genuine. I'd like to think people know where they stand with me, and honest as well. And I'll give them honest feedback, and I hope and I encourage them to give me the same. So treat me the same.
You touched on the AFL before, and
Yep.
I think quite refreshingly from my perspective that. You know, we've got another member around the partnership table that's not a West Coast supporter.
That's correct, yeah.
But North Melbourne, where does the love of the Kangaroos come from?
Well, I think a lot of my mates, obviously, I've born and bred in Western Australia. I've been brought up here, but my parents weren't interested in sport one iota. And generally, a lot of kids get their footy interest from either their siblings or and I've got a sister who couldn't care less about footy, or their parents. So. I think when I was a kid, probably in 94, 95, I've been a long time supporter of them and a member. I really like Wayne Carey, like a lot of other, I think, kids did as well, because he was sort of the powerhouse, full centre half forward.
Friday night football with North Melbourne.
Yeah, under lights.
Yeah,
Yeah,
under
that's
lights.
right. So that's where my sort of, I guess, love of the Kangaroos stems from. And once again, we've won 2 premierships in 96 and 99, nothing since. So that proves how loyal I am, I think,
just to save people saying it from me,
Yeah.
we're obviously
can't question my loyalty.
Can't quite say we've won any premierships at this point in time.
Well, that's true.
I'll say that for those that are probably sitting back listening, sort of making that comment anyway on my behalf. But no, you've got to be loyal, and nothing's good that's not earned, I guess, is the thought process.
Yep.
Look. We could probably talk for hours, Rowan, and we're certainly getting close to our allotted 30 minutes. But maybe just to wrap up, it's now day 3 of being a partner.
Yep.
Do you have sort of a vision of what you're trying to achieve, I guess, as a partner, as we sort of wrap things up?
Well, I guess in the early stages, what I don't want to do, I want to get my arms around the client, because obviously I've sort of taken over quite a few of Terry's clients. I don't want to reinvent the wheel. I want to get to really understand the clients that I perhaps don't understand as well as I do some others now. Just be that sounding board. Just be approachable, professional, friendly, and just let my core values just come through, which is quite easy to do because it's natural to me. Just be genuine, loyal, collaborative, and just look to try and grow with the clients as well. I think that's what I'm going to sort of bring to the table, I hope, and some ideas, and I'll contribute where appropriate to the firm and the future. Awesome. Looking forward to it. Good. Look, on behalf of the partners here at the firm, we're certainly excited that you're joining the executive team, and that you continue to bring the highest level of service expected by our clients in line with our values. So, look, thanks everyone for tuning in this morning and watching and listening. So hopefully you've learned a little bit more about Rowan. And if you'd like to chat with Rowan directly, I'm sure he'd be more than happy to take a phone call, email, those sorts of things, and all those details are on our website that you can get. So we're probably just ticked over into the afternoon. So if that's the case, enjoy the rest of your Friday afternoon, and certainly thank you again from all of us here at HLB Mann Judd. Thanks. Thank you. Thanks, Rowan. Thank you.